Hi everybody, this is the Sportsocology Show. Welcome. I'm the host, Bill Knudsen. It's Saturday, May 17th, 2014, and I hope you're having a great start to the weekend. I am so far. And I think I've got about 5 subjects I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit of hockey, which I haven't been talking much about because there's been a lot of other things going on, but hockey's down to its final 4 teams for the Stanley Cup, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the NBA playoffs, a little bit about Johnny Manziel, a little bit about Michael Sam, those two for the NFL, and a little bit about my Mets. So I'm going to get right into it, starting with a little bit of hockey. Like I said, we're down to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals as of last night. It's all finished. In the Eastern Conference, we've got 2 of the original 6 teams in the NHL. It's the New York Rangers and the Montreal Canadiens. In fact, Game 1 is being played between them and Montreal right now. The Rangers are up 2-0 in the second period. I'm going to pick the Rangers in 7 games. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm a New York Islanders fan. I am not a Rangers fan at all. But I believe the Rangers will win this series because of the man between the pipes. Henrik Lundqvist, if he's not the best goalie in the NHL, he's one of them. And when it comes down to crunch time, conference finals, on your way to play for the Stanley Cup, I think it's all about the goaltending. And I believe the Rangers will have the edge in goaltending. I will pick the Rangers to beat the Canadiens in 7 games and go on to the Stanley Cup Finals. Over in the West, another original 6 member, the Chicago Blackhawks, will be hosting the Los Angeles Kings. The Los Angeles Kings are the only team left that's not one of the original 6. And I will pick the Blackhawks in 6 games over the Kings. The Blackhawks are their defending champions. They've won 2 of the last 3 cups, I believe. But I believe the Blackhawks, they have too much firepower. They have pretty good goaltending. So do the Kings. But I think the Blackhawks will have too much firepower for the Kings. I'll say the Chicago Blackhawks will win in 6 games. So I'm predicting the New York Rangers against the Chicago Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Championship. And I will pick the Chicago Blackhawks to repeat by beating the Rangers in 6 games. I will call it 6. Won't surprise me if it goes 7 because of the goaltending that the Rangers have. But I'm going to say the Blackhawks in 6. The Blackhawks will repeat as Stanley Cup champions. That will not make my best friend Warren Sullivan up in New York happy. He lives, breathes, and dies with the New York Rangers. So that will not make him happy, but I'll say the Blackhawks defeat the Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals in 6 games. All right, I'm going to move on to a bit of the NFL with Michael Sam and Johnny Manziel. So Michael Sam is up first. As you may know, there are 256 picks in the 7 rounds of the NFL draft, and Michael Sam was picked number 249. In the 7th round. So there were only 7 picks behind him before the end of the draft. Some people say it's where he should have been picked, talent-wise. I'm not so sure, because he's the Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC. The SEC is the best college football conference in the country, and they are known for their strong defenses. So I find it hard to believe that the SEC Defensive Player of the Year wouldn't be picked until the end of the 7th round. So I think it very well could be because he came out saying that, that he was an openly gay man. I think that may have turned some teams off because obviously he is the first openly gay man ever to be drafted in not only the NFL but in any sport. So I think some of the teams might have been turned off by that. Not the fact that he's gay, but the circus that's going to go with it. Because obviously everywhere Michael Sam goes, the media is going to be intensified. They're going to be asking him a lot of questions. They're going to be asking all of the Rams players and coaching staff a lot of questions, and I think some of the teams just didn't want to deal with that headache. There's also the fact that he's called like a tweener, meaning a betweener, that he's not really big enough to be on the defensive line, maybe not fast enough to be a linebacker. So he doesn't really have like a set spot where you just look at him and say, yeah, he's perfect for this spot. He's got the heart, he's got the work ethic, he's going to give you everything that he's got. There's no question about that. But finding a spot on the already stud defensive line of the St. Louis Rams might be difficult. I think for him it might be situational, like maybe on 3rd and long, just go in there and rush the passer, because I'm not sure he's fast enough really to cover as a linebacker, to cover wide receivers coming over the middle, and I'm not sure if he's fast enough to cover backs out of the backfield that are catching passes and stuff. So like I said, he's kind of a tweener, doesn't really have a set spot. Special teams might be the spot, because he's got the motor, he's got the drive to get down there and deal with what you have to deal with on special teams. You got to run 1,000 miles an hour and take on blocks and do those kind of things. So if he makes the team, and that is a big if, because St. Louis is already good on defense, and it's not guaranteed that he's even going to make the roster. So the circus that's going to come with him being openly gay and all that's going to go with that will be there in the beginning. I'm hoping that if he makes the Rams roster, that all of the questions and all of the stories about being openly gay will, will be gone soon, and hopefully, assuming he makes the team, and that's a big assumption, but hopefully the things about him being gay and all of that will be into the past quickly, and it'll just be about playing football, the Rams playing football, him contributing to the team, and moving on to the 2014 season. The thing I didn't like was when they were talking about him getting a reality show. Now, I just heard, I believe it was yesterday, that the show is, I don't know if it's canceled or at least postponed. I'm not sure, but I never thought that was a good idea. With all of the circus that's going with him as it is, and the difficulty that he's going to have just making the team, he doesn't need any more distractions and any more things taking up his time. What he needs to do is, his life needs to be football, eating, and sleeping, and then more football and more football and more football. That's what his life needs to be. So, maybe during the off season, or maybe later on during the season if he's established. I even think in the off season it would be better. But he doesn't need any of this other stuff. He wouldn't even have this show if he weren't, coming out and saying he's openly gay. Nobody would even be really interested in a story about him. So he needs to be just about football and nothing else. So I'm kind of glad that that's at least postponed, if not canceled, because like I said, he needs to be eating and sleeping football. That's what he needs to do just to make the team. Quick update if you're interested, the Canadiens just scored. So now it's Rangers 2, Canadiens 1. About a little more than halfway through the second period, the Canadiens just scored as I'm watching. But that's what Michael Sam needs to be doing. Concentrate on making the football team and worry about this other stuff later on. Now, moving on to Johnny Manziel, I heard yesterday that when he was passed, a couple of times by the Browns at number 4, and then when they moved down to number 9, they traded down from 4 to number 9, and they didn't pick him at number 9 either, as the draft was moving on, that he actually texted the Cleveland Browns quarterback coach saying, I hope you draft me, because I really want to play in Cleveland, and he wants to come in and wreck the league as a member of the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with the Browns drafting Manziel. I did hear that the Browns had Manziel as the number 1 quarterback on the list, so I don't know why they didn't take him at 9. I guess they had a plan to take somebody else at 9, which obviously they did, and then if they needed to, move back up at the end of the first round to get Manziel, which they ended up doing. So that may have been their plan all along. I don't know. I don't know if Manziel's text had anything to do with it. I would hope not. I would hope the Browns already had a plan to get Manziel and did it the way they thought was best. So I'm assuming that Manziel actually texting them, like, please draft me and I want to play for you, that sort of thing, had little or nothing to do with it. It may have been the cherry on top of the sundae, but the sundae was already there. I don't know. I really don't think it had a huge effect. But as starved as the city of Cleveland is for a championship in any sport, especially football, they haven't won a championship in football since Jim Brown was running for them, and that was before the Super Bowl era. They have never won one in basketball. Of course, they don't have a hockey team. And in baseball, they've been to the World Series a couple of times in the last 20 years. Didn't win it. They haven't won in baseball since 1948, I believe it was. So Cleveland is definitely a championship-starved city. And, but they're a passionate city. They're very passionate, especially with their Browns, and to find a guy with the charisma of Johnny Manziel, the appeal of Johnny Manziel, saying that he wants to come and play for you, please draft me, that obviously didn't hurt. And I don't think they're going to be sorry that they did that. I think a few teams that passed him might wish that they had drafted him later on, because he's got the it factor. Obviously at Texas A&M, he's playing in the best conference in college football. He was, and with the exception of LSU, whom he did not do great against either time he played them, he dominated the SEC, including great Alabama and Auburn teams. So LSU was the only one that seemed to keep him under control. I mean, he put up ridiculous numbers, both with his legs and his arm, in the best conference in the country. So obviously the kid can play. Now, I realize the NFL is a totally different world, and, there have been, as I've said before, there have been a lot of guys that were great in college that couldn't miss, and of course they ended up big busts. That's why we have the bust list. And maybe the biggest bust of all time is one of my LSU guys, Jamarcus Russell. He might be number 1 on the list. All the talent in the world, had everything going for him, big money, and I could have played better in the NFL. At least I would have given it my best. But, he basically stole $31 million from the Raiders. But anyway, I don't see Manziel being that. They worry about his size. Well, he's about the same size as Drew Brees, about 6 feet tall, maybe 210, something like that. Now, Drew Brees doesn't run like Manziel does. He's a pure pocket passer, Brees is. But obviously, last I checked, he's doing pretty well, isn't he? He'll be in the Hall of Fame 5 years to the moment after he retires. He's one of the greatest of all time, and he's 6 feet and maybe 210, about the same size as Manziel. Like I said, he stays in the pocket. He doesn't run like Manziel does, but Manziel needs to learn, the idea of the quarterback. You need to be able to throw from the pocket, which I think he's proven at A&M he could do. Again, the NFL is a different level, but he can throw from the pocket. He's accurate. He's got a good arm. And when he runs, get as much as you can and slide, or get out of bounds. You cannot be taking on these gigantic linebackers and safeties, or defensive linemen. In that case, whatever, you don't need to show how tough you are. That's not what the Browns are going to want to see. They want the chains moved and Manziel to be exciting like he was at A&M, but hit the ground, or hit the out of bounds line whenever you can. They're going crazy in Cleveland. He's got the #1 selling jersey since the moment he was drafted. The phones were ringing off the hook for single game tickets in Cleveland and for season tickets. I myself, I'm going to be getting a Browns Manziel jersey because I'm a big fan of his, except when he played against LSU. That was the only time I didn't root for him. But I'm a fan of his. I hope that he's smart enough, and so far he's been saying the right things about he's low man on the totem pole, and what he did in college was college, and that has nothing to do with the NFL. The NFL is much, much tougher, far superior to college football. He's low man on the totem pole. He just wants to go in, work hard, and do whatever he can do to help the Cleveland Browns win, and that's exactly the attitude he needs to have. Because if he comes in like he's God Almighty or something like that, the NFL will humble him in a hurry. His teammates will put him in his place, and the NFL is very humbling to people that come in and haven't accomplished anything, doing a lot of smack talking and thinking they're entitled or whatever before they've earned that kind of respect. So, like I said, Manziel's saying the right things. I hope he backs it up, that he's working hard in the film room and he's working hard with the playbook, and on the field he's a sponge. He is listening to the veteran teammates that he has, to the coaching staff, and anybody else that can help him bring out the tremendous potential that he has. So I'm rooting for him. Like I said, I'm going to get his jersey, and I'm looking forward to watching the Browns, and hopefully Manziel, if he doesn't start right away, because I don't think they have much. I know Brian Hoyer, he was decent, but I think really it was only one great game that he had. So I think Manziel will have a good chance at starting. Again, if he has the right attitude and work ethic, he'll have a good chance. But I'm looking forward to seeing him. I know the rest of the country, all the NFL fans, can't wait to see what he can do. And we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to move on to a little bit about my Mets. Bear with me if you're not a Mets fan. But they had a disappointing split with the Yankees earlier this week. They went into Yankee Stadium, beat them both games, scoring 21 runs. So I'm feeling good. Then they come home for 2 games with the Yankees. And not only do they give the 2 games right back to the Yankees, they got shut out in both games. So it was very, very disappointing. And now they're in Washington. They lost in Washington again last night. So their record is 19-22, which is probably about where I thought they would be after 41 games, but it's been a disappointing week. They're in 4th place, which is probably where I thought they'd be. But, nobody's really running away with the division just yet. The Braves are in 1st, but the Mets are in 4th place, and they're only 3.5 games back. So I'm not feeling horrible about that. It's like, do I think the Mets are going to challenge for a playoff spot or a division title? No, I don't think that. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm always going to be hopeful. I think I picked them to go like 71-91, which is what they ended up last year. They're on pace to win like 75 or 76 games, so it's pretty much where myself and the experts thought they would be. But we'll see. Hopefully they will be a pleasant surprise. And speaking of a pleasant surprise, this week there were 2 rookie pitchers that came up from AAA Las Vegas. Rafael Montero, a few nights ago, against the Yankees. He was okay. Now, granted, it's his major league debut, so I'm not going to say, he's a bust or he's no good or anything like that. He was okay. I think he gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. They call that a quality start, which to me is stupid. Because if you give up 3 runs in 6 innings, your ERA is 4.50, which has never been a good ERA, nor will it ever be a good ERA. So I don't know how a 4.50 earned run average is a quality start. It's not, but that's considered a quality start in Major League Baseball. To me, like I said, that's stupid. That makes no sense. But he was okay. He's got decent movement on the ball. He's got a live arm. There's work to do, and we'll see. who I was really impressed with was Jacob deGrom. He lost 1-0 to the Yankees the other night. Hard luck loser. I believe he struck out 7 or 8 in his 7 innings, only gave up 1 run. He's got a live arm, nice changeup, curveball. He's tall and thin. I was impressed with deGrom, and hopefully Montero will be coming up because, the Mets need help pitching. Now, if we can get, a couple of the guys in the minor leagues, like deGrom and Montero, who at this moment are actually with the big club, I don't know if they're going to stay there, to go along with Matt Harvey, who I think is a stud, and he's pitched like it. Hopefully he'll come back from Tommy John surgery next year better than ever. I'm still iffy on Zach Wheeler. He's with the Mets, and he's a bit inconsistent. One game he'll look really, really good, and then the next game, not so good. But if you want to be an ace of the staff, you have to be good or better on a consistent basis. I'm not sure about Wheeler, and supposedly there's a stud at Las Vegas right now, Noel Syndergaard, big strong kid, and whatever. So if we can get Harvey, deGrom, Wheeler, Montero, and Syndergaard, if they can all, be what they're touted to be. The Mets have a history of having these great pitching prospects, and most of them didn't pan out. Of course, Dwight Gooden panned out. Matt Harvey so far very much has panned out, but there's a laundry list of ones that didn't pan out. So, because I don't trust Dylan G, or I don't trust Jonathan Neese. Jonathan Neese got beaten up again yesterday. He was doing pretty well so far this year, but I just don't trust him. Too inconsistent. The same with Dylan G. So I'm hoping that Harvey will come back, deGrom will be good like he looked the other night, that Wheeler will start to get it together and be more consistent. Maybe Rafael Montero and this kid Syndergaard at Las Vegas will be the real thing and come up to the Mets. So we'll have to see, because that has the makings of a potentially really good starting staff. If you care, the Rangers just scored, so it's Rangers 3, Canadians 1. There's about 30 seconds left in the second period, so most likely it's going to be 3-1 Rangers at the end of 2 in Game 1. So I'm hoping Harvey, deGrom, Wheeler, Montero, Syndergaard will live up to their hype. Like I said, I think Harvey already has, and we'll have to see. G and Neese, hopefully they'll get more consistent, and they can have a really good starting staff. But the bullpen is still terrible. I mean, you cannot trust anybody in that bullpen. So even if the starter gives you 7 or 8 good innings over the last 2, 3, 4 years, the Mets bullpen has been so bad. Even when Bobby Parnell was healthy before he got hurt about a month ago and got Tommy John, they blew so many saves, blew so many hold attempts, so many of the starters, especially Harvey, and when Johan Santana was still pitching for the Mets, so many wins that both of them should have had that were blown by the bullpen. So they're still going to have to address that too, whether it's down in the minor leagues or getting some free agents. I don't know, but even if these guys pan out and we have a good starting staff, we got to get people in the bullpen that can close out these games. I don't know. But I think that might be all that I have. Oh, no, that's not all that I have, because I haven't done the NBA playoffs. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're down to the Final Four in the playoffs. We got the Heat and the Pacers in the East. They start tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 Eastern time, Sunday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern. And in the West, we've got the Thunder and the Spurs. So I think probably the best 4 teams in the NBA, at least at the beginning of the season. That's what I would have said. I mean, the Pacers played great for more than half of the regular season. They might have been the best team or the second best team in all of basketball. But since right after the All-Star break, they have been either really bad and then other times really inconsistent. You know, they were very inconsistent in the first round with the Hawks, managed to get by that, played a little bit better at times against the Wizards and got past them in 6 games. But now they're getting what they wanted. They wanted revenge against the Heat. They pushed the Heat to 7 games. Last year, the Heat had trouble with Roy Hibbert, but Hibbert has been, I mean, at times really, really bad, and at other times really inconsistent. So I'm not sure, but I think the Pacers will put it together against the Heat, because Hibbert gives the Heat trouble, and the Pacers give the Heat trouble because they've got several big men that, you know, if Hibbert comes and brings his game on defense, he's a force. And, you know, David West is a big man, you know, that can do some things. And if George, you know, and Hill, you know, can put, you know, their talents together, I think the Pacers will be formidable. Now, I picked the Heat to win the East from the beginning. I'm going to stick with that. I will say it will go 7 games, which will mean that the Heat will have to win Game 7 on the Pacers' home floor. And I say they will do that. So I will pick the Heat to beat the Pacers in 7, but I won't be surprised if the Pacers get revenge and take the Heat out, because I don't think the Heat are as good as they were last year, losing Mike Miller, who was really big in at least 2 or 3 of the games last year in the finals, hitting threes left and right. They're going to miss that. I think that Ray Allen has hit some clutch threes for the Heat during this postseason run, but he's not hitting them like he did last year. And without Mike Miller, they don't have that outside threat. And who knows about Dwayne Wade? How many games can he give you of Dwayne Wade type, you know, ability? Is he going to give you 7 with, you know, 18 to 22 points and some of it? I don't see it. I think maybe 2 or 3 games he can give you 18 to 22 points. I think he's going to have to spend more time on the bench, so there's going to be even more pressure on King James. And I'll say that the Heat barely squeak by in 7, just like last year. But I won't be surprised if the Pacers win. But I'm going to take the Heat in 7, which means they'd have to win Game 7 in Indiana. I'll stick with that, but I'm not feeling super confident in the Heat being able to knock out the Pacers, but I'll stick with them. Thunder and the Spurs, nobody's playing better than the Spurs. The Spurs are not only winning, they are dominating. They are just tearing people up, just running them right off the court. In the first 2 rounds, I think this past round, their average victory margin was like 19 points. They're not just winning, they're blowing people out. But I picked the Thunder to win the West. The Thunder have been a little bit inconsistent, you know, in that Clippers series, especially the one game they really blew. But then the next game they came back from a big deficit down the stretch and pulled it out. Westbrook and Durant have been playing really well, and they're certainly going to have any type of chance against the Spurs. Like I said, the Spurs are playing the best basketball of anybody, but I picked the Thunder, so I'm going to stick with the Thunder. I don't see the Thunder, if it goes 7, I cannot see the Thunder winning a Game 7 in San Antonio. So I'm going to pick what I think is a pretty big upset, the way the Spurs are playing, and I'm going to say the Thunder in 6 over the Spurs. So that'll leave me with the Heat and the Thunder. And I've said since the finals ended last year that the Heat would not three-peat. I just didn't think. I think all of this will eventually catch up with them. And I will pick the Thunder to beat the Heat in 7 games. I'm not rooting for that because I'm a big LeBron fan. So I want the Heat to win the title. But I'll pick the Heat and the Thunder to win their respective conferences. And then I will pick the Thunder in 7 over the Heat. and the Thunder to win the title. But again, I won't be disappointed if I'm wrong, because I want the Heat to get the three-peat. But I'll say that the Thunder will knock them out in the NBA Finals. All right. Well, that is definitely all I have for today. Thank you very much for listening. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the hockey, enjoy the baseball, enjoy the NBA, soccer, whatever it is. Enjoy the outdoors. Hopefully the weather is good wherever you are. I appreciate you listening. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Let me know what you think, because I am interested. And get out there and do whatever it is you love to do with whomever you love to do it with. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.